Hey guys, and welcome to another edition of The Kevin Moore Show. Now on today's show I'm about to be joined by my guest Karen Neumann. Now if you want to find out a bit more information on Karen, I'll put it in the... Hi guys, and welcome to another edition of The Kevin Moore Show. Now on today's show I'm about to be joined by my guest Karen Neumann. Now if you want to find out more information on Karen, I'll put it in the description below in this video, and I'll also link our previous interviews as well. I got to know Karen through doing the documentary They Call Us Channelers, and in the previous weeks gone by we've been discussing between us, you know, how our feelings on how we feel about what's going on with the truth movement right now, and just how that's sort of been ebbing its way into the spiritual community as well. And we thought, well, you know, before I come to the States to film my next documentary, I would stop over at Karen's, and then, you know, we could put this in some sort of coherent, you know, discussion. So I hope this is helpful to people. I found it very interesting to do this with Karen. I was very tired at the time. This was late at night and I had a flight to catch the next day. But you know, it made an interesting conversation and I want to share it with you guys. So enjoy my interview with Karen. So Karen, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
We're here in your home in The Hague.
Yes.
So thank you for hosting me as well, as just before I go to the US. I really wanted to sit down and have a chat with you because we've spoken quite a bit about what we're about to talk about right now, and there is lots of change going on in the community of I would say the conscious community in general, or the spiritual community, which I've always kind of represented with the show that I've done. I have done subjects of the UFO type subjects, obviously channeling, and conspiracy, which I kind of stay away from sort of conspiracy driven subjects nowadays. I just don't find that it's just not for me. Do you know what I mean? Unless I can find a subject in the conspiracy world that's got actual proof behind it, right? Because a lot of them, you know, don't sometimes. Then I tend not to touch it as well, because I like to do enlightening kind of subjects that are gonna, you know, make you become the best version, you know, subjects that are, you know, gonna bring you up, do you know what I mean, lift you up. So I think when we talk within this interview, we're not out to attack anyone. We're trying to come from love with the way we're going to discuss this, what we're going to discuss right now. So we're going to talk about how the consciousness type subjects have sort of ebbed their way into the spiritual community quite a bit.
Yeah.
Have you noticed this?
Yeah, I did. I didn't really notice it until recently, because for me it wasn't anything I was ever focused on. And then I started to sort of hear more and more and more things. And then at one moment someone made a comment on one of my posts on Facebook, and she said something to the effect of, you know, if you knew about this, this, and this, then you would really understand. And I thought, what is she talking about? So I started doing some research and sort of dove into a world I didn't really know existed within what I would say is the sort of spiritual path. I don't know that I consider those paths to be one path. I think that they're running, maybe they're trying to stand by side, but I don't know that they necessarily do or can, when one is based on love and another one is based on fear. So that was my experience, and I was surprised at how dark some of the stuff was that I was reading, and that a lot of people seem to have opened themselves up to believing. And like I said, I was very, I was surprised. I was really surprised.
Well, let me read you a comment that came in from, and this is kind of, I think this is kind of, this is how a lot of my audience, I feel, are coming from right now. This is the kind of representative. I'm watching your interview with Laura Eisenhower and it's great. I just keep thinking you should really invest some time into researching these topics she's discussing. I've spent hours and hours and weeks and months researching these military topics, reading books, watching interviews, and she's 100% right on. I'm kind of surprised you aren't more familiar with the shadow governments, the secret space programs, the military-industrial complex, and the Mars operation and moon bases. These are like preschool type basic fundamental or foundational concepts. I'm surprised you've been able to evade them. Maybe there's a larger whistleblower truth agenda here in the US. I mean, not to be rude, but as a talk show host and author, it's kind of your responsibility to be well read in these areas because it's the whole other half of the esoteric spiritual agenda. I'd recommend starting watching Corey Goode, David Wilcock's popular show on Gaia called Cosmic Disclosure.
Yeah.
If you should catch up on some of these important subjects, you'll be more informed and be in a better position.
Yeah.
It's like being a college professor and teaching all literature classes but having zero knowledge of simple mathematics.
This is a whole quote.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, the person that I talked to kind of said the same thing to me, but not in a deriding sense like that. But yeah, there's an entire school of thought built around those subjects that I don't know that it's in the minds of the people that are involved in that. They see it as very factual, and I don't know what books this person's referring to or what facts they're referring to. They're not common knowledge facts. There is an industrial military complex. I mean, there is one. The government talks about it, you know. I mean, I think, who is it, talked about it? Reagan talked about it. So there is, but I don't know all the things that this person is referring to. And I don't follow any of those people. And I've never felt the need to follow them. And so, yeah. If your entire belief system is based on those facts, then, or those beliefs, then yeah.
But what they're saying as well is that you cannot have the spiritual esoteric agenda without looking at the secret space program
that's clearly,
on all these other...
that's a person's opinion.
Yeah, conspiracy. But though that is what's been seeping into the spiritual community recently.
But I'll tell you something, the true esoteric belief system, if you talk about esoteric, has nothing to do with nuts and bolts, places, peoples and things. It's all an internal exploration. And true esotericism is about knowing the true divine nature of the man and the human. It has nothing to do with secret space programs and, you know, divergent cabal, deep state things.
Pedophile rings.
But any of it, it has nothing to do with that. So those two things are not, they're not congruent at all. So I'll tell you something, knowing about, you know, those things don't match up together. I'm sorry, but they don't. And if you really understood esoteric philosophy, which I would consider myself someone who has walked a Hermetic path, you know, I do follow the Hermetic path. I would consider myself Gnostic. That's not what they're talking about. So the terminology that this person is using has nothing to do with spirituality.
But isn't that way. Sort of, I feel that that's kind of the way some people out there feel.
Sure.
And I think it's been not just, I think it's been a growing kind of thing in the community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not with everyone.
I'll just say this, because I walk the edge of this very much, but there's something that I've noticed, and I'll tell you something that you don't know about me, but I'll tell you something. My job, one of my jobs is to be a trend watcher. That's what I do. And I look and I will see something and I'll know, oh, that's growing, or that's becoming important. And so what I've seen in this trend, as I back it up, is I noticed that within the ET world, there's an element of conspiracy already in it. And the reason I say that is because we are all talking about ETs, but we're talking about them as being covered up. No, we know that we don't know everything that the governments know. But that's already the premise, you know? So you're already going into something where you're having the belief, factual or not factual, and I think in this way factual, that there's something being withheld from the public. That's the premise of the belief, and that is based in that people are having experiences, but the government's actively dismissing them. So you're going in with this idea that the government is covering something up. Everything else that falls past this is just one step further, and one step further, and one step further. And the fact that people at this moment in time so much want disclosure, that there's this sort of now, I would say, pulling of this desire. It's a building thing, that all of the thing about disclosure is, why not? Why can't we have it? So there's all these answers. Everything that, all of those things that you mentioned, all those complexes and stuff, are all answers to the why we don't have this disclosure of something that the majority of people on the earth believe. I mean, it's something like 82% of the people believe that there are, extraterrestrials and that we could have contact with them. So the premise, right from the beginning, lends itself to conspiracy and more conspiracy, because it's already conspiratored. It's believed that it's believed, and if not known, that there is a conspiracy to keep that truth from coming into the public realm, right? So all of these other things are whys. Well, Kennedy died because he was going to reveal aliens, so of course they killed him. And but if you talk to Daniel Sheehan, that's not the reason at all. Daniel Sheehan will tell you it's based on drug lords and whatever. But there's all of these things, and they all can be woven together to become one big thing, and a bigger thing, and a bigger thing, and a bigger thing. And I think that's what's really happened. And as you have people in the world with a growing dissatisfaction with their life, with where they're able to go, with their economic situation, with their outlook, with their possible futures, the frustration builds, and so does this sort of anger and distrust of this unknown entity that is keeping from you the one thing that you believe to be true, or know even to be true, So I think that's really the basis of it. That's really the basis.
And I suppose what I haven't been honest with my audience is that I'm actually here because I'm in Amsterdam right now because I'm leaving to go to America to film my next documentary. Even though I'm still working on my first documentary, the channeling documentary. My next documentary is going to be about uncovering evidence of a whistleblower that's out there in the community right now that needs to be looked at from a more objective balance, that evidence has been uncovered to show that he is not who he says he is, and not to really go after the person, but to go after the story. The story is not what it seems to be. So knowing that I know this now, I say to myself, and knowing that there are people that really want to tie the esoteric agenda and spiritual agenda with the secret space program and other, you know, Mars colonies, moon base, and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
If this story is not true, how many other people out there who have come forward with these really larger than life stories are not true as well? But that's been my journey.
I think you're the one you're following. You have to follow it to the end and look at all of the facts that you get and present them, and then each person and each story has to be, you know, evaluated individually, and maybe as a spiritual community, because this has become part of the spiritual community now. You know, 10 years ago, this wasn't really that part of it. It wasn't. We weren't talking about this stuff. We were talking about angels and, you know, Saint Germain and those kind of beings.
Well, Neil Donald Walsh's books.
Sure, we're
stuff like
talking about that, you know. And so now it has shifted to be more ED, I like that, extra dimensionally focused. So you can imagine that, you know, just like in business, there's people who see opportunities and maybe come in and try to, you know, work an angle with people. But we have to be discerning as people. And
but are we though?
I think to a point, no, we aren't. And some people are, but some people clearly aren't. And, you know, we have this situation too where one story builds on another person's story. So one person comes in and says, I had this experience and it's a fact. And people say, wow, that's pretty extraordinary, but he seems credible, so I'm going to believe that story. And so then another person, whether it's association, projection, mental illness, repression, memories, dissociation, it can be anything, will build on that other person's story because they also saw it and they felt it and they experienced it. Do you know do you know the story of the witches in Salem? It's based on a book, and I can't think of the name of it. But so people can have experiences based on what's like a psychosomatic illness based on something that somebody else said. It's like if I go, oh, it's cold, and then you go, yeah, I feel it a little bit cold. It may or may not be cold, but because I've suggested it, suggestion's the way I'm saying it. So sometimes stories are built upon suggestion, and then another person builds a story on that, and pretty soon you have a very big thing. And that's how conspiracy kind of works, you know. And so that has happened. And that person in the very beginning may have been telling a completely falsehood, you know. So...
But I'll also say as well, I think that...
Or you could say, well, a similar experience awakened an experience in another person. You don't want to diminish what people are saying, but when people are clearly...
When the facts are there...
When the facts are there and they're clearly shown to not be telling the truth, it needs to be acknowledged.
So now, where am I going with my career just right now? Because people would have noticed on my channel that I've stopped pumping as much content out, right, that I was before. And the reason for that is I feel it's my job now to do the opposite of what other people are doing out there, other hosts, and actually start looking at some of these bigger stories and collecting evidence to find, are they actually genuine?
I think that's good. I think we have to be discretionary, and I think that if something is genuine, that will also come out, you know. You can show the things that are not genuine, and you can also show, yeah, I researched this really seems to be the real deal, you know. But we shouldn't be afraid as a community to say, wow, we thought that was real, but it's not real.
But we don't do it.
We're not doing it yet, but that's why you're feeling this need. There's a need for it.
Well, actually,
right?
that's wrong for me to say that. There are other people out there who
Yeah.
have tried doing it, but they've not had the right people to work with to try to do it. Maybe maybe it's about divine timing and alignment.
Sure.
Because, you know, when you look at what's going on in the world right now, and just leave our little bubble of the UFO spiritual community for a minute, and look at other bubbles of reality in other fields, whether it's Corey Friedman, whatever his name is.
Corey Feldman, yeah.
Feldman, yeah. And then look at the busting that's going on with him right now, in a sense. So people are now going against him and the story that he's been putting together. Yeah.
Okay.
And
so they don't believe him now?
No, because people that have worked with him have come out and come onto other talk shows to say, give their side of the story and everything. And then you could go to E17, Brian Harvey, right? He's a UK pop group guy. He's got his own case going on. Is he telling the truth? Is the people that he's accusing him telling the truth? I think when you've got proper evidence and proof, I think that show that there is a lie being given to people here, no matter what field that you're in.
Right.
I think that we can't just think that needs to happen in our field. It's happening in lots of fields right now, because we're living in a time when everything's that was secret is becoming transparent.
Right. You know, it's not original to this time only that people have been shown to be liars. You know, Madame Blavatsky, who was a big writer, she was shown to, when she was doing her spiritualist demonstrations of tables floating and stuff, they found that the table was being lifted by strings, and there was this thing where she would put ask a question and a note would appear in a box.
It's like the guy that debunks Navy SEALs on YouTube. I'll put his YouTube link in the bottom of this video. And he busts these people live on his YouTube, well, not live on his YouTube channel, but recorded over the telephone, right? And there are so many people in the US that pretend to be Navy SEALs, and they're not.
I know. It's like the stolen valor thing, right?
Stolen valor.
Yeah. There's always somebody. This is what's so funny, is like, as much as you can have so much integrity about what you're doing as a person, like, and you're walking along, there's always going to be somebody else who is doing almost exactly the same thing as you, but doing it for completely sort of backward, not, how do you say, backhanded reason. Look at all the internet scam. I get calls literally 100 times a day. Well, that's a lie. I get calls at least 100 times a month from, and that's not a lie, from the Microsoft people who are saying they want to, check my computer.
Indian call companies.
Yeah.
Pretending to be
And I said to this woman, they call, I'm like, why are you doing this job? And this one woman was screaming, why are you telling me I'm a liar? I'm not a liar. So maybe she really believes.
You can't, we're not going after the people here, right? Nor would I do that personally now. I know I kind of did that just maybe last week a little bit, and with Paddy Greer, and I apologise for that, right? I think what a better approach is. You can't hold someone in. You can't hold yourself in the light and hold someone in darkness, right? So we've got to hold everyone in the light, right? And rather than calling someone out, it should be a case of trying to help them to see that maybe what they're saying, when you've got the evidence, is not true. Yeah, that.
It depends. I mean, you can say to them, listen, this is the evidence I have.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yes.
And can you
explain that?
Can you explain it, as opposed to like taking the approach of like you're going to help them, that you're going to offer them, because they're the ones that are talking about it.
Well, when I say help
your job is to present the facts.
Well, let me ask that question again then. Yeah.
That's
true, that is. Okay, let me ask that again.
No, but I think that's a good learning for you. I think that's a good thing to remember. Your job as a reporter, as an investigative reporter, which you are and want to be, and to do that with integrity, is to look at everything, to look at all of it. And this is in spirituality. We have to do this too. We have to be able to look at the light and the dark and find that perfect middle ground of mastery where we're not affected by any of it.
I'm confused sometimes as to what exactly my role is. I just know that my passion is to put a stop to some of it.
That's not your passion. That's your goal.
Well, my passion is my goal. You can be
passionate about it.
I don't know. I'm passionate about it. Then yeah. Because people. I've always wanted to find the truth.
Of course.
I've always wanted to find the truth.
So present the truth as the best that you can, and just trust that it's enough.
Yeah, I mean, that won't be enough for everyone. People, even on this new case I'm working on, when they see the facts that I'll present, they'll still say, no, Kevin, we still believe that this this woman's story is true.
And that's their right.
Absolutely. Even with the facts there,
it's their right.
Audio and video footage, no one's changing any.
Do you know who Leah Remini is? And she's the one that, she was on that show King of Queens, and she came out of Scientology.
Oh, Scientology story, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she said that so much of the time that first of all, the Scientologists are never watching her show because they don't watch those shows. But the people that she's helping are the people who don't get duped in the first place. She's preventing the duping by letting ex-Scientologists tell their story on her show. She's presenting facts so that, the people who might have gotten pulled into it don't.
That's true, isn't it? Because you can't just accuse someone of something without the facts. And I mean...
Well, you don't have to accuse them. You can just share the truth of it.
Yeah, but I think you need to share a truth of it backed up with evidence.
Sure, of course. It has to be grounded in the truth.
But in my community, in our community, I feel that there's been stories shared with zero evidence, right?
Yeah.
And that's okay, right? But when you have the evidence to say the opposing opinion or the opposite,
right,
then,
yeah, we have to sometimes say, you know what, I got it wrong. I thought it was this way. It looked like that to me, but here comes all this other stuff, and it shows that it's not true. And we have to be willing to accept that some of the stuff that we have been told or fed is also not factual. But that doesn't have to be. It's not like in what is it in Japan where they. It's not an honor thing that if you get anything wrong, you have to self do that.
At all.
But we should be, if we're really as open as we say we are, we should be open to also being wrong as well as being right. Right?
Absolutely.
So the only thing that you can do is present the facts and just also say to your audience, I wanted this other stuff to be true too. I wanted it probably more than you. I built my whole career on showing these things. But as I got into it more, you've interviewed how many? Over 100 people?
Oh no, 800 plus.
800 plus people. You start to get a lot more sides of stories, and you start to get a lot more information. And holding your objectivity, you have to look at all of the facts. And sometimes the information you find is not
But we don't always like as well in this community, other hosts out there, I will say this, will not challenge their guests. That's not the platform they provide.
I think because I agree with you, and I know that that's true.
I can't do that anymore.
That's because you're having a sort of you're having a you're having a defining moment for yourself where you're kind of seeing behind the curtain and saying, you know, some of this stuff is not real. But I think that's okay. And it doesn't matter if other people aren't doing it. You know, Esther Hicks says, there's never a crowd on the leading edge. There's never, you know, you might start a trend, but go boldly where no one has gone before. That's my nerdy side. And stand for what you believe in. And if you know the stuff that you are presenting is the truest for what you know, regardless of what this person said. I mean, this person is very indoctrinated into their beliefs. It's not your job to change them. And it's not his job to tell you what you should know either. That was a very judgy...
But that's okay.
I'm just saying that was a very judgy response because he doesn't know you. He doesn't know everything you know. He assumed a lot of things about you. And, you know, basically he was telling you, well, you don't know. Well, I would take the position that he's offering from a vantage point that doesn't offer a lot of leeway. But you have to present your own knowing as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the people that you will help are probably not the people who are sort of stuck in that belief. It'll be the other people who are questioning, like, is this real?
Because
do you know?
I do feel we this is a shared reality.
Mm-hmm.
We all have the same reality. Well, it's sorry. We create our own reality, but it's shared, so that.
But you cannot discount individual experience. It's like you and I are brother and sister. We would grow up in the same house, and you and I could have had completely different experiences in that same house.
Well, yeah, true. But, you know, I've had a UFO experience. Let me just say this, right?
Okay.
My family and I can't really talk about it. If they was here now, they'd say the same thing. We can't talk. It was too far out of our comprehension of what that was.
Right.
But it wasn't, you know, it's still in a shared reality of what other people that have had UFO experiences say. But it's not what some of these stories out there are saying, where they're so out there, right, that it defies any other people's experiences on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
I think what happens is someone comes forward and says a story that's so elaborate, and then other people who have the same maybe mental health issues come along as well and hinge onto that story and build upon it, and then other people, and then other hosts in my community with mental health issues also hinge on that story, will not challenge it, right? And then it's a big pile of spew, yeah? But at the same time, I just, you know, someone's got to stand up for that, not in a attacking way on people, but to stand up against the story.
Sure. And so you should do that.
But that comes back to if yeah,
you do it.
But if I don't do that, then where is this dilution of this material going into the spiritual side going to be in a couple of years' time?
Well, things have a way of evening themselves out, you know, and things come in waves and in trends, and this isn't sustainable, this trend right now. Because at one point, and I've seen it in other things, there's no proof of it happening. And it doesn't come to pass. And then when it doesn't come to pass, either people just get frustrated with it, or they, you know, turn against it, or they create a news story. But I think that when, you know, or if, let's be objective, if some of these things that are projected to happen don't happen, then it'll be a reckoning moment where you have to evaluate, well, okay, I was basing my whole life on this thing happening, and it's not happened. So what do I do now? And there's going to be people that have to get to that point. And that's got to be okay, because that's their experience. You know, and that's their right to live it. And for whatever reason that brought them there, that's their experience.
See, for me, the whole thing of what I've been doing all these years
Yeah.
was I've always known, or I've always felt it was true, my truth, that I'm a soul having a human experience.
Sure.
Right. So from that knowing, what information could I bring from the spiritual side that would help me in my moment now? Yeah, or help me in this incarnation.
Well, everything is spiritual, first of all, right?
Everything is spiritual,
Yeah.
but to have some of that information that is of a wiser, a kind of broader picture of what this reality might be, right? But what I found with all the many hundreds of interviews that I've done now, looking back with a different head on,
Right.
is that it was kind of overblown sometimes. It was kind of answers that weren't really helpful.
Let me offer you this. You kind of went through the journey that a lot of people will go through in their first coming into this world, awakening to this world, exploring this world, tasting everything, seeing everything, hearing everything, digesting it all, and then letting some of it go and keeping some of it, keeping the really good stuff and letting some of it go. You've just done it in a sort of accelerated pace because of your, I would say, almost overexposure to so many different people, so many different teachers. You know, most people, they find one or two people they really like and follow, and will follow them and follow their teaching and follow their truth. And then they stay with that until it doesn't work for them anymore, and then they move on to it. But you kind of ate everything off the buffet in a very short amount of time, and you've realized some of it's really good and some of it's really not good. So you have a different perspective, which is a great thing that a lot of people don't have, you know. And so you kind of can't expect everyone else to be where you are because they haven't shared all of those cumulative experiences with you. You know, they didn't interview 800 people. They're just still listening to the first guy that they found that made them think, wow, there's something bigger than me out there, you know? So I would just, again, you only can do what you can do in the way that you do it. You can only present what you believe in your own truth and your own integrity for the right reason, because you want to be honest and you want to be truthful. And then for the rest, you've just got to let it, you've got to let your expectation of the impact of it and the expectation of what other people are believing and thinking go. Because everyone will get to their own truth eventually, and that's part of the soul.
Yeah, you know,
the
only side of the work that I've not kind of walked away from in this, so in my head so far, is the past life regression, because I think that's helpful for people, even if that's not true. It's so very helpful to people when they go to the root core of their issues by going into a life that maybe is causing something that by seeing it in that picture mode allows them to get healed in a way that they wouldn't do without that kind of analogy taking place in their subconscious. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. It's helpful, right? You know, I even still support, you know, genuine mediums, genuine psychics, because I think it's helpful. Yeah, getting that, you know, almost acting as a life coach that some of them do as well. But and there's many other subjects I think that are helpful. But it, you know, having now worked on a case for 2 months, knowing that there is a lie taking place with this particular story, it rocked my world in the sense, well, what else have I been covering in the spiritual side as well? Not just, you know, not just the conspiracy and all that, or SSP side. What else in the spiritual side has been? What other guests did I get on that were actually not telling me what I thought was a genuine truth, but was, you know, I'm not going to call it a lie, but it just wasn't what maybe that this is their truth and they think this is true, but actually it's not.
Well,
I kind of want to say a
I know what you're
liar
saying.
at one point,
Well,
right?
there's people
But
that
also not.
share what they believe,
Right.
and it may or may not be true, but they believe it, you know. And then there's people that genuinely lie.
Now they're the hard ones to catch out now, but I think, or is it hard? Is it a case of this? The truth is simple.
Right.
So if it's a simple analogy, a simple way of understanding it, that is truer than something that's really overcomplicated and too many twists and turns, and it's just, you know, we call it new information, but it's new, you know, mind masturbation.
Well, I think that the only thing you can do, because you can't go back, right? If there's someone that you think, oh, that person was really not telling me the truth, then you can explore that more. But the only thing you can do sort of going forward is take all of this sort of deluge of information that you have and find what of it that gives you, brings you to yourself, you know, what centers you, and what is teaching you something, you know, that teaches you who you are. That is the information that is true beyond all other superfluous extra info. The truth is you're divine. The truth is that love is the stuff of the universe. The truth is that we are one. Those are the truths.
Love is the only answer in any situation.
Love is what we are. Love is everything. You know, love is the cement of the universe. It's the basis. It's the vibration that everything exists within. So
being of service is important.
that's what we do. That's something that we do. But the truths of who we are is that we are one, we are love, and we're divine. Those are the truths. Nothing else is true. Nothing else is, I don't want to say true, nothing else is the basis of who we are. What we do with that information is we should serve each other, we should love each other, we should, you know,
I could call the
focus
rest
on
of
that.
it, I could call some of the rest of the noise out there in the conspiracy world, or that other big channels cover, you know,
Yeah.
fear porn. I could call it that.
Sure.
And there's so much fearfulness. There's nothing enlightening about that information.
No.
There's nothing that says to you, now you can become your best self, because you never hear that in the interviews when fear porn's being talked about.
There's two things always going on. And I think I've shared this with you before, but I'll share it with you again. And this is the information I've got. This is what all the major teachings teach you, is that there's two things happening in this world. There's love and not love. There's knowing who you are and not knowing who you are. And everything is just one or the other. So the people that are focused on these dark these conspiracy things and these dark things are not walking a path of love. You cannot do both. You can't be only dealing with darkness and also be standing in the light. We are all of it, for sure. I mean, ultimately we're all of it, but the two things are, they don't go together. So I would say to you, because this is what I'm hearing now, that I feel to share with you, is that you can spend a lot of time tearing a lot of this down, or you can just share your truth without needing a result. Because just like we say in the spiritual world, focus on the world that you want. Focus on the world that you want it to be. Focus on the love, and then that'll follow.
If I never covered this new documentary I'm about to do, no one else is going to do it.
Sure.
And no one else would know the difference that this was a lie.
I think, because I don't want to tell the story of what you're going to do, but I would only say that your offering is to share a story that needs to be told for the person that it needs to be told for. all the other conclusions will come. Do you know what I mean?
No. I'll answer that with, well, maybe I'm working on behalf of the murder victim. Maybe it's the murder victim.
That's what I mean. You're sharing his story.
I think it's the murder victim that has been pushing us all throughout this new documentary, wanting to get his voice out there to say, well, hang on, where's me in all this?
Well, that's what I mean. You're doing it for the love of the story that needs to be told. His story needs to be told because he's the forgotten aspect of this whole thing.
We've not cared about him, and other people have profited from him.
So that will become relevant. Do you know what I'm saying?
Completely. That's why I'm kind of emphasizing what you've said.
So I think that you're going to share a story of a person whose life was taken by shady people who are now deceiving the spiritual world, right?
Well, at least, well, yes, you could say the spiritual because the SSP has got into the spiritual.
Within the
but
whatever that is,
my community, that because I share kind of both stories.
Sure. So you're going to share that story because the victim's story needs to be told, and you feel that is sort of the inspiration for you, that's pulling you.
I feel so. I feel so, but there's also going to come other light, even from the person, one of the people that's been locked away for this story for 36 years. He's got a story he wants to tell as well, and there's light in his story, even with the atrocious murder that he did. There's still light in where his thinking is now, and the forgiveness that he's had to show himself and the family, and he continues to do to this day. So there's all sorts of twists and turns here.
Yeah. So to do that with that integrity, share it. Transparency. Yeah. And the rest will kind of take care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's other stories out in this community that we're in that will also need the same kind of care and attention to look at their stories.
Well, maybe once your story comes out, then other people will start to say, well, I mean, I know that I check everything. If I hear something and I think that sounds really, the first thing I always type is blah 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 scam. Yeah. And then you see all this stuff that comes up where this person's like.
But we do trust our other hosts in this community. We do trust.
I don't trust. No, I don't accept everything that.
I not accept him. Well, not accept. I never speak.
No, I don't.
I
watch things and I think I don't agree. Or I think that doesn't resonate with me. I don't even want to watch it. I think some of the stuff that I don't resonate with, I just don't even watch it. But there's been people that I've had on my past radio show that I just flat out said, I'm sorry, I really, with all due respect,
I'm stopping it. Yeah,
I'm stopping this interview right now because this is not
authentic. Yeah. Yeah.
It was such it was sort of a benign thing. It was a person promoting a system as this great system, and it was nothing but a manipulation to get money from people. And I was like, I don't want this on my show. And this person had a book, and they came highly recommended, and they had said to me, I will send you my talking points. And I said, well, I don't know. Let's see. I would, and I asked her questions, this woman, she couldn't answer them. And she said, well, let's stick to the list. And I said, no, I'm not going to. But that's regardless. I think we have to have integrity as a community of people that interview people. I'll just say this, and I think there's this, like I said before, I think there's such a desire for getting what we want, disclosure, or in this case, disclosure, that there's a gullibility that comes along with that by being so in the belief that there's someone keeping you from that.
It's almost like saying you can't live your best life without this happening, and it's like because
they're like, oh, when this happens, then when this happens,
free energy and all this. Well,
so if that's always the carrot,
do
you know what I mean?
Yes.
And they just keep moving it back,
and they're very clever at moving it back.
And it's what's interesting is like you see it like in any kind of monetization of any kind of industry. You know, we had a nice little ride where the spiritual industry was kind of under the cuff. No one really knew it was there. But there's a lot of really dedicated people, you know, running through the fields with their flowers and crystals. And then sort of all of the social media came up, and you had, you know, monetization that happened with YouTube channels and, you know, all of these things. Donations. But, well, this is the thing, like, okay, I'm a channel. I don't channel every single day. There are channels who channel every single day. But there's this sort of need to have this always a progression. You know, if you watch a channel and they say the same thing every time you hear them, you think, oh, they only say the same thing. I'm bored with that. I'm going to this guy who has a more exciting, you know, thing. And so there's this need to always up the ante a little bit, because people are always, you know, that's why there's a million diets, because people are always attracted to the shiny thing. So this guy makes a prediction, you know, so this other guy makes a prediction. And it almost doesn't matter if the prediction comes true or not, because somebody over here is already making a prediction. So people are always running from side to side to side just to get that new information. What is this guy saying? What is he saying? And I think that's what happens. And so it's like this, because there's so much all the time, there's this need for it to be even more exciting and more and more. You know, I host a webinar every week with different channels. The questions don't really change that much from week to week. You know, people will just ask the same questions over and over again, and they want a new and more exciting answer, you know. But there's always not something new from week to week.
Well,
how fast do people want? People want things to move so fast.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, we want disclosure. We want it now. Okay, it didn't happen now, but it'll happen now. But okay, it didn't happen now, and that's just sort of what's happened. So there's a sort of frenzied eating. You know, it's like a fast-moving frenzy of, we got to have it. We got to have it. You know, why aren't we getting it? Oh, they're keeping it away, really. And then why are they keeping it away? Because of this and because of that. And so you've got this sort of, and then you get the people who come in that are sort of media savvy, you know, and they look at it and they see it truly for what it is. They see it like a business.
Infotainment.
They see it as a business, and they think, okay, I got to do this, this, and this. And then they execute. They execute perfectly. They give some information, they give more, they give more, they give more. And they're not in, you know, Alex Jones, perfect example. He fed people what they wanted to hear, and then his claims got bigger, and then they got bigger. Because you cannot keep just saying the same thing. It has to be more. It has to be more. You know, people get mad at the news when they watch something and it's a report on, oh, there was a guy walking down the street, and then they spend 20 minutes talking to this guy who was just walking down the street looking at flowers. They think, oh, slow news day. You know, people want more, always more. What is this guy saying? What is that guy saying? And it has to be fantastical. It can't just be the simple message that every guru and Indian sage has said of go within and find your truth and learn to know yourself. It has to be something bigger. And the truest message is you have to go within and learn to know yourself. That's the simple message.
Exactly.
You know, that's it.
I've heard hosts recently, and I'm not going to name names, and they were using the most flowery kind of words. It was just like they were talking about spirituality, and it was just out there. It made no sense whatsoever. And this is a person with a following as well. This is right.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, what is going on with my community of spirituality?
Well, you know, don't judge it so much. I mean, just be like, maybe the people that are listening to whomever that is, I don't know who you're talking about.
Need to hear that, yeah.
They might understand her or him. They might understand
But I've got
it.
a pretty good grip on the basic
the thing
stuff.
is, you don't need to worry about what other people are understanding. You only need to share your truth, Kevin. Truly, truly.
Yeah, that is. I do agree with you there, but I mean, I just think I'm agreeing with what you said previously, which is the simpler the truth, the more it sort of resonates. It's like.
But sometimes people got to take a long road around. Sometimes you got to take the long road around, and everybody. Either you believe that everybody is exactly where they're supposed to be or not. You can't have it both ways. You can't say everyone is exactly where they're supposed to be, yet you should really be over here.
Well,
you can only offer.
I think highlighting to people or highlighting to the person, what was that? What did you mean by that?
What did I mean?
No, the people saying this.
Sure,
kind of,
but that's what you will do, and I would always preface everything with, I'm not understanding what you're saying. This isn't right. This doesn't seem to fit. Can you please explain it? And hopefully that person, if they have integrity, will explain it.
Absolutely.
If they don't, then that says enough. And as a community watching, we have to also be willing to see that sometimes our heroes are not who they say. That has to be part of it. It might scorch us a little bit, but
we've invested a lot, haven't we?
We've invested a lot. Well, like Doreen Virtue is a
great example.
Great example. She's a lovely woman who had a change of heart about what she was doing. And, so now people are like, do I still use her tarot cards or not? I think in the spirit of the way that they were made, use them if it feels good, if not, but you can't negate her experience. She's negating her experience now.
Yes, she is.
Yeah,
I feel that about her as well.
Well, she said, she just flat out said, I don't want anything to do with it. I want my publisher to stop publishing them. I don't want...
Yeah, she got people like James von Prague and other big names to get their names taken out of her books or vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she doesn't want any part of it. So that's her prerogative, And so everybody has their moments, and for whatever reason, she wants to go in her direction, and God love her, let her do it.
Absolutely.
So every person within the spiritual world, some moments you'll believe this, some moments you think, that's not serving me. It's not
It just pains me. Now I know about this one story. Now looking at the other sort of over-the-top stories, that it's very possible that a good portion of these stories out there are not true.
Well, a lot of stories that we have believed and been told have turned out not to be true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet the thing is that they're still out there. I think that should maybe change. Like some of the stories that have come out where we found out this person, completely lied. Maybe that needs to be taken out.
Yeah. If this was kids watching this kind of content, and
it probably is kids a lot of times.
Well, and the content had been completely misleading. I would understand why kids would be misled easily, right? If the content was, it's like the time travel videos.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of kids, younger kids, they just look at it and go, "Come on, dude, that's just crap."
Well, yeah, but there's a time travel channel out there by Apex TV, and you just know that is fact, that it's all faked. Of course it is, but it's infotainment.
But sometimes people go through stages too. Like, there's a stage where Charmed was a big TV show, and everybody wanted to be a witch, and everyone was having these things. People want to identify with something bigger than themselves, and they want to find their identity. And it thrills them, and it gives them something to focus on. But sometimes things, especially when you're really young, can be just a phase. The question you have to have is,
Well, my point with
is it hurting the people?
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. My point
Yeah.
with that was my audience is a bit more mature than that, and yes, I do feel misinformation is hurtful to people.
Yeah.
Untruths
Yeah.
is hurtful to people because it's a mistrust. It's kind of I'm not going to get the right word here, but it's almost like
I'll just say it like this.
go on, yeah.
I'll say it like this because I just feel like it is my greatest desire, and I know that it's your greatest desire, that people are able to find their truth, that they're able to remember their true divine nature, that they are in fact divine beings who are made of love. They are love. And anything in this world that keeps you from remembering that is not serving you. So my deepest, sincerest prayer for everyone is to take all of the information that is now coming in, because a lot of it is distraction. It's distraction from this truth. To take that and really say, you know, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but is it serving me? Because there's a lot of things that are true that don't serve you, just like there's a lot of things that are false that don't serve you. So what is your priority as a spiritual being? What is it you're truly trying to decide? And if you believe that you create your own reality, and you know that what you focus upon is what you get more of, shift your focus to the things that are going to bring you back to the knowing of yourself. That is the only thing that you can really do, you know. And if you spend your time doing that and surrounding yourself with that and surrounding yourself with people who are also in that sort of forward thinking, you know, love direction, then all of this other stuff will shift right out of your reality, and you won't run up against it. You know, we have this power within ourselves to focus. That is one of our gifts that we have as a human being, is to focus on what we want. So let's do that and not spend all this time worrying about a lot of things that are not going to empower us. You know, let's focus on the stuff that's going to empower us. If you're a person who looks at your world and says, I can't live one more moment in this world with a situation like that, then get involved and change it. Go to school, become a lawyer, become a doctor, become a scientist, and learn how to change it. Become an environmentalist. Change it. But don't sit around being victimized by something that you can't even touch, that you think is holding you back. There's no such thing. We are too powerful. There's too many human beings in this world to believe that one group, small group of people is twisting or pulling the strings of everybody else. If that it cannot be true. Or else we wouldn't be able to even have this kind of conversation.
Exactly. We've got completely free will.
We do.
Others will say different. I don't.
So just know you're powerful. Know that you
can create the life you want.
You absolutely can. Mm-hmm. And don't be drawn in by all this fear stuff. It's just it's a waste of time, and that waste of your time is the real conspiracy, right? You could have had all this time where you're thinking, oh, this guy is doing that, these people are doing this is happening. You could have been creating a beautiful world, you know, instead of being, that's the real waste of time.
Yeah,
you know?
And I think I can just briefly before we finish it, differentiate the conspiracy to the consciousness subjects, because they are very different. I think with the consciousness subjects, you just know when something doesn't resonate with you, because you feel it, don't you? It's very difficult for me. If someone's coming to me with their truth on one of my interviews, with their spiritual truth, right? I'm not going to say, well, it's difficult to say, well, let me go dig out and research them and find out their background, and are they telling me the truth about what they've just explained to me. I think with that type of stuff, it comes out in the quality of the material that they're presenting to you.
Sure. But anything can be run through this filter of, is this based in love or not?
With anything.
With everything.
With
sure.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially the spiritual stuff.
You can do it with food. You can say, was this food grown? Is this a highly processed food with dangerous chemicals? The person who created it probably wasn't thinking of your well-being. We can look at everything in, is this love or not love? Is this serving me or not serving me?
It's so good, that is. That's such a good quote. Yeah.
Is this love or not love? That's what Theo said to me when I was 5 years old. They said to me, always ask yourself, is this love or not love? And they said that is all you need to know.
Yeah.
And what I also found is that I didn't need to disbelieve in something to believe in something else. I didn't need to say, oh, that's wrong, to believe in what I knew. I just always said, this is what I know. Does this fit into it?
Depending if you know the facts of a story.
Well, yes, sure. We're talking about the story now. I'm talking about it, the
spiritual stuff.
Spiritual side of it.
Yeah.
But if in our community, and we find out that there are people that have deliberately lied about who they are, about what they've experienced, one, it's very sad for them that they feel that they have to do that and they've chosen that path. But for us, we need to say, okay, that's not true, what we've been told. So we need to acknowledge that it's not true and move on from it, and maybe look at what were the knock-ons from that and say, okay, well, if this basis of it's not true, then everything else under it falls down. We need to be willing to accept that and know that.
Well, that's my goal.
I hope you...
whether I do that for many, many years or not, I don't know right now. All I know is right now.
Well, you have a calling to do this one so far, right?
There could be more.
You have a calling to do several so far.
Yeah.
Well, Kevin, I think you should do it, and I think you should just follow it. And
I am.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, just go forward and do it with your integrity.
Absolutely.
And for the right, you're doing it for the right reason, and it will reach. Also, just trust it will reach the people that it needs to reach. And even if there's resistance to it, sometimes it's very hard to change someone's mind drastically in the first go, but it can plant the seed. And there's other people out there, some people that you and I both have talked about. I guess I could mention, you could mention them, but that are out there actively also checking stuff.
Yeah.
And they are doing a good job, in my opinion.
They are. Well, listen, I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I just want to thank you so much for giving me your time.
Well, thank you for giving me your time, and you're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah, and much love to you. Much love to everyone.